Hi, everybody. I would like to welcome you to Tokeativity. Today, we're going to learn how to lobby with Jesse Bontecou from Oregon Retailers Cannabis Association. We're going to go over lobby skills that you can apply in almost any situation where you want to use your voice. And then we'll be focusing on Oregon-specific issues that are currently being worked on in preparation for Tuesday's Lobby Day. So I'd like to welcome Jesse to Tokeativity. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Really appreciate the opportunity and excited to get this out there for people to use. As you mentioned, this training is designed in general for people who are trying to lobby politicians, whether at the local, state, or national level. And the skill sets are pretty much universal because it's a very important thing to remember is that all politicians are humans and interact and engage on the same basic principles as everybody else, which is to say, emotional personal connection is very valuable. And a lot of this is just providing information for how to really effectively communicate your message and engage them appropriately and effectively to make progress. So with that, I'm going to start with some overview of why we lobby, why it's effective, and then move into some of the specific tactics and techniques. So one of the things is when you are, the reason you're lobbying is you have a goal. And you are trying in general to find a champion for your issue. In the lobby guide that we have up on the screen and is available, is that the success of your legislative or political goals is by and large determined by the quality of advocacy of legislators and their staff. In other words, basically, how much energy and resources are the staff and legislators willing to spend on behalf of your issue? The corollary or counterpoint to that is how much is someone else or another legislator willing to spend against you? So generally speaking, we have two main goals. One, identify your champion and give them all the resources they need to be successful. And B, neutralize or weaken an opponent. That being said, next point, why do we lobby? Legislators are incredibly busy almost all the time and have very limited resources. And so those resources are very valuable to them. And what you're doing is going in and helping them realize that you're raising the value of your issue to them, making them see that your issue deserves their resources, their care and consideration and attention. In Oregon, we only have a legislative session, a full one, every other year. So lobbying is also especially important for us when we have what we call a long session here, which is 6 months long, because it won't be for another year really, or another 2 years before you get to go back and work on other legislative priorities again. And in general, when I say they're busy, for Oregon legislators, they're writing a $75 billion budget covering 120 agencies in the state. They're dealing with about 3,800 to 4,000 legislative bills, again, in 6 months. And then also dealing with all of the thousands of other citizens, interest groups, lobbyists, that care about those 4,000 bills and are asking them for their time and attention and energy as well. So the main goal is you need to lobby because you got to break through all of that other noise to make sure your issue rises to the top. Legislative, sorry, I'm going to fix my screen. Legislative, it's also important to remember that, it's a fight, it's a competition, and there are always losers. So in Oregon, of that 4,000-ish bills, only about 20% or 25% pass each session. And within that, thinking about who are your opponents is always effective. And sometimes it's not a who, it's just sort of a situation as your opponent is resources. I like to think about it in three main groups. You have legislative opposition, which is, to say in the Capitol opposition, from actual legislators. So it could be because they don't agree with you on principle or morals, like they oppose your issue, they think you're wrong. It could also simply be they want the resources that you are asking for to go someplace else for another priority. Or it could be they support you, but they just don't support you enough to expend their own resources. And so that's sort of like the energy, the opposition you generally get from inside the building, from legislators there. But then there's also the people, what I like to think of outside the building, are those other organizations, businesses, or people that simply oppose you for their own reasons. It could be because you're a threat to their industry. So for cannabis, it could be alcohol producers or big pharma. Or it could be other organizations that want your time and want the time and resources that you're asking for, and so they want their money for their issue, and so therefore they don't want to go to you. The other one is just a resource issue. This is not about people or morality. It's simply about have you made the argument for your issue being important enough for people to spend resources fighting for you in the very short time frame that they have. So, and this is one of the most frustrating ones, because often pieces of legislation will fail not because a legislator doesn't support it or wouldn't vote for it if it got the opportunity for a vote, but simply because in the limited time that they have and the limited resources that they have, they're not willing to spend that on your issue. That's the hardest ones to handle, because they agree with you, but just not enough, and it's sad. Then this is an important kind of corollary for the strategy of dealing with all of this. Your key goal is to make sure the right staff and legislators care enough about your priorities that they're willing to spend their resources on them. And that's really what all of the rest of this is designed around, is to try and give you the skill set to accomplish that goal.